So for this iteration of Intro to Vue, we're going to figure out how we can click on these cards and get it to like populate a new page with the data that we want. Did anybody try this last night? Who got it? Yeah. What did you end up doing? Will you describe your process?
So I did it the inefficient, like extra server call way. In React, we built a similar project to this.
Mm-hmm.
I built a similar project and I had cards, but I just like handled state for each individual card in the card file.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like updating and deleting. And I made fetch calls within the card file. I just did the same thing here, and I got the appropriate student by quick sidebar is I'll add this later. So I did it by this route params ID.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Is $sign route observable, or is that just like a convention? Because I've seen the $sign parameter like name. It's like a naming convention.
Naming convention for observables. Yeah, as far as I understand it, it is an observable. That's a cool way to do it. The way that I am going to do it today does not involve a secondary fetch. We're just going to use the data that we got initially, but that is an absolutely fine way to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to end up passing props through the router. So it's going to require a little bit of a refactor from the code that we did yesterday because this page works, but the way that we have it set up, we can't really pass props through the router from where they're existing right now. So cool, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to ask questions. I'll stop every here and there. Let's see. So I'm going to pull up my app.vue as well. I want app and I want group. So right now we have our fetch within the group view, right? So whenever we go to that view, it is going to make that fetch call and then render the cards based on that data. But the issue we have here is that we don't have any way to get from our group view to our individual view, right? So those two things are completely separate. They're like siblings in the tree. You can't really pass across to a sibling. You can't really pass up to a parent either. It has to always come down from the parent. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take all of this nice code that we wrote yesterday, cut it out, and we are going to paste it in app. Script. Did that do it? I think that did it. Great. So now, assume the app is going to have the data that we want. So let's see. Is something broken? Nope. Maybe. Individual card is not defined, and that is at, I'm going to blow this up a little bit, at app.vue. Import individual card. Oh, that one right there. Yeah, so when we declared it in our components, like we don't need that as a component. That is something that we only need in the group page. So, let's see. All right, we got our squad, but we have no cards now.
Can you go back to what you just said?
Yeah. So, what we had when we copy and pasted over, we had a components key whose value was an object that had individual card in there. We don't need that in our app.vue, so we just deleted it. And it was throwing an error because, yeah, we didn't import it.
But it stays living in group.vue?
Yep.
The component piece?
Yeah. Exactly. Because we do still need that card in our group page. So, property or method use of superheroes is not defined on the instance. Why is that? Can I read that error? The property or method useless superheroes is not defined on the instance but referenced during render. So and that's coming from group. So we look here. Can you point out what is causing that error? Yeah, what's up, Austin?
Is it the V4 statement, hero and useless superheroes?
Yep, that is right. Because we don't have anything in here called useless superheroes anymore. We extracted all that data and put it into app. So now how do we get it down here? Because the issue we have now is we don't have all the views listed out here as things that we can bind props to, right? Which is how we've been stereotypically binding props, is you have your element and you just do the colon and you call it whatever you want and you equal the value, right? But now we don't have those views. So what we're going to do is we're going to bind it to the router view. And what this is going to actually do is it's going to give us access to these props in everything that is in the router view. It is not this most ideal way to do this because, again, like our about page does not need access to it, right? We're not going to give it access because we're not going to declare the props key in our export default statement. So it's not going to be expecting anything, so it won't be able to use it. But still, this would be a great opportunity to use something like Vuex. Generally, you could use a state manager to give the specific component what it actually needs. But for this, we're just going to pass it through the router because it works relatively the same. So we're going to bind, what do we call it in group? Useless superheroes. Useless superheroes. We're going to make it equal useless superheroes. Okay. So just to double check that all of my scripts are working in the app.view, I'm going to go into my Vue Dev Tools and double check that app does have the array that I'm looking for. Great. So we've also we've bound the props to the router. So now how do you think we get them into group specifically? Because right now if we go to the squad page, it doesn't have access to them. What is the next step we should take to get them into our group view? Something we do every time we pass props down to children. We know what we do in the parent, we bind the props. And then what do you do in the child? Anybody remember?
Is that where you pass in the props to the default?
That's exactly right. So we're going to come in here, and we've got our components key. We're going to make a props key, whose value is going to be an object, and we're going to be like useless superheroes, right? Because it should be expecting that. If we don't declare those props, this component will not be able to use those props, right? You have to tell it to expect them. Oh, boom, there it is. We've got our props in there, useless superheroes. It's an array of 7. And it works. It works just the way we want it to. So that's fantastic. I like it when it works. So now we've kind of refactored that a little bit. Does anybody have any questions about that process?
Can you go on the last part?
So I didn't change anything in the template. All we did was extract it out, kind of the functions and the methods for calling our fetch, and then gave it this props key and made sure that this value matched whatever we bound the router view so that it has access to it. Mm-hmm. Do you want to see the scripts and everything? Or just
One looks like there is I guess maybe outside somewhere.
cool. So then just to kind of drill this home a little bit, if I delete that from router view and I come over here, useless superheroes is now undefined. And we've talked about this a little bit yesterday. It still creates that place for data to fall into, but it is undefined until you actually bind that prop to the component. Questions about that?
Yeah, it's
So that could be something where maybe you're binding it to the router view, because I tried it on the router link yesterday. I was like, this should work, and that did not work. And just make sure that you do have use of superheroes here, and that this value matches this value. Because if anything, it should bind as null. Cool. Questions? If you'd like, take a second, give me a thumbs up when you've caught up to this point, and we can move forward.
Well, it's showing the array is coming back, but the card's not showing yet.
Let's see.
It shows up there, but.
Oh, yeah. Are on the squad page. I use the superheroes, it's not defined. So something. Super. Yep. Hey, there we go. It's good to have like really good variable names,
Yeah,
but when they get long, it's really hard to not make typos sometimes.
Yeah, one letter type of one.
Yeah, it's the most frustrating thing. Good. Good.
Good. Behind you.
That's all good. See, components is an object.
Oh.
You did it right though. It's a key,
Oh.
and then its value is an object. Yeah. And you just write the name of it. Just like that. Yep. That's source, that's helpful. It's just kind of truncates the whole back. So let's go back. So I think that maybe that's this. So we're in group. Next group now structure. Group. Individual cards and components. That looks good. So fantastic. Individual card. And can we make sure that this isn't like plural or anything like that? Individual card looks good. Yeah, let's try at home. Components, not done. Let's go to app. Aha, there it is. Like normal and yeah. Don't need that. Do autosave. So individual card that view and no longer here app that view. We go back into that. So props is going to be a thing in app that view either. I don't think that that's what's making it angry, but let's go ahead and get that out. Still, oh. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You two good? Yeah. You keep it going good? All right. So now that we've got our data kind of in the top level and we're passing it down to each of our views with the router, we need to figure out how to make this thing a link. So what my goal kind of is to just be able to click anywhere on the card and it takes you to that page. Does anybody have an idea of how we might do that? Just to make this whole thing a link. Yeah. So we're going to go not to group, but to individual card. And we're going to wrap this whole thing in a router link tag. So this is going to get angry, and it's going to say, you don't have a link to anything.
Is the router link tag inside the div, or did you delete the div?
I left the div and just wrapped it in router link.
Okay.
So yeah, it's missing a required prop 2. So anytime you use that tag, you have to have a 2 bound to it. We're going to bind the 2 in a little bit different way, because before it had just kind of been an attribute. But you remember how we had used the source for the images? We had to bind the source, as opposed to just like doing src equals. We had to do the colon src equals da da da, so that we could kind of put like an expression in the quotes. We're going to do a really similar thing here. So we're going to say 2 equals and then we want to go to slash, what was it? I want to do these thingies, I believe. And then it's about slash individual, yeah, slash $ curlies. Nope, I screwed something up. View bind directives require an attribute value. Path. So this is another syntax that you can use with router links. Require an attribute value. That should be fine. I have to look at the docs again. Woo!
Sorry.
No, you're good. Unexpected solidus in tag. Alright, well, do you want to look at the docs real quick? And I'm going to do the same and figure out, because there's separate syntaxes that you can use for the 2. Oh, that seems to not be as angry. But I still don't. And then this should go here, and this should go here. That still doesn't seem right.
Mine allows it to happen if you click, do the curly brackets and then name colon, and then quotes around individual, comma, and then params, and then you take the param that you want to find the individual card by. But when I do that, I don't know if it's just because my individual card is fucked up or if that is not working particularly.
Okay. So you had it like this?
Yeah, take out the slash in front of individual.
So right, so in our router, it'll match the name. Yep.
So is your individual capitalized?
No, I will be leaving it uncapitalized, but parsing your unexpected character and attribute name.
Oh yeah, this is where you need the colon. Like this is something I was struggling with in terms of routing for some reason.
Mhm.
Like, the actual string interpolation is deprecated unless you do the whole binding thing. I don't know why it's broken there, but that's what I did.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I know the params is a good way to do it, but I want.
Not the right way?
It is a way, and it works.
Okay.
So that is the first concern. The right way is just kind of more like, what is the way that makes the most sense as far as people reading it later,
Yeah.
and as far as is it going to be buggy.
Cool.
So for our purposes, this should be fine. I'm going to see if I can. Path should work. I don't know what is happening differently. And then here we're going to do student.id. Cool. I don't want this comma. So we bound the 2 prop, and then we passed it a string that is an object with the path, and then backticks individual slash student ID. So let's see if that takes us somewhere. We don't have it set up in our router yet, so I'm not. Look at that. Individual slash 3. So we clicked it, and it actually routed us to the place that we want to go. Hoorah!
Sick.
So let's go ahead. We have an individual view. So let's go ahead and import that into here. Actually, just make a new path because we're going to lazy load it. Path is /individual/:ID. Same way you've done in your express routing, right? The ID is just kind of a param that is a placeholder. Name individual. Yeah, sure. And then component is import /views/individual.view. Okay. So our individual page should just say individual on it. Hey, it's working. Squad, individual. Squad, individual. Cool. So that routing is working. And it's taking us, just pushing those params into the URL so that we can pull them down. And what we're going to do is basically filter through the students or the Vue squadees that we have. So if y'all want to take a few minutes, get caught up with that, ask any questions you got. Give me a thumbs up if y'all are where you need to be.
I have a question. Is this where that whole like webpack chunk name thing? Is that where this comes in? With like
Webpack chunk name.
I have more code question, but
Okay, I'm not sure. Webpack is largely a mystery to me. But if you do come up with like a pointed question, I will do my best to either answer it or find an answer for you. Austin, did you have a question? Okay. Yeah, for sure. Any other questions? Helps? What's up? Heck yeah. So also look at your URL. So we haven't routed to that specifically. So you've got it in your routes. So that makes sense. So nav is an individual card. Yeah, for an individual card. So we use backticks. Right there. So we do like certain sick ass template literals. Huh. Still not doing it. We got a router link to name. So let's make it path instead. Name. Yes. Yes. You can do it with name and then put params in as well. That is, by the way, I like. Yeah, there we go. I like doing it with the template literal just because it makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Good. I'm good. Cool. Good. All right. So now we just got to figure out like how we're going to display some stuff now, because we're routing to the correct place, but we're not like actually getting any data in that component, and we're not displaying anything. So the next step. Since in our app.view we are binding, I'm going to get this out of the way. We're binding useless superheroes, and basically every component that we have has access to it, or every view we have, because those are all the things that are imported into the router. So first thing we need to do is we need to give that view, the individual, access to this prop. And again, how do we do that?
Custom props.
Yeah, we gotta just do this little props key right here, whose value is an array. Useless superheroes. Great. So everything going according to plan, we will now have access to useless superheroes within this component. Let's check our Vue dev tools. Dun, 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 dun. Anonymous component. Props. Use of superheroes. An array. Sweet. That's just what I wanted. All right. So now we have our useless superheroes prop. So now there's another kind of like key that can go into your export default, and it's called computed. And so what the purpose of computed is instead of having something in your data, right? Because generally you think of those as like a string or an array or an object, things that you store in data. Oh, he did the downward dog fart. What a computed property does is it actually makes it so that you can run a function and return a value that you use in your template or somewhere else. So, again, things that you store in your data, strings, objects, arrays, null, undefined, but you don't generally store functions there, right? You have methods for that. But what computed does is it acts as kind of a data point. But it runs a function on some stuff and then returns something, and you can reference it by whatever key you gave it. So that's a lot. Let me write it out, and then we can discuss a little bit more, and y'all can poke at it. Benny Hush. So computed is an object. So we're going to say hero. We're going to make it equal a function. And actually, I'll talk about that in a minute. So we're going to return something. We need a return, right? Because we want the value of hero to be whatever this function gives us. So we're going to filter. So we're going to do useless superhero. I think I need to use this. Yeah, this dot useless superheroes dot filter. Hero. We could probably just one-line this, but we're not going to. And we want to return what is it? This dot route dot params dot id. We're going to use loosely equals because the IDs are going to be numbers, and actually we can do it strictly equals. We can do let ID hero ID equal this dot route dot params dot ID dot parse. How does parseInt work again? Is it parseInt and then you pass the thing you want to parse into the function? Or is it a two number? That'll work for me. To number JS. I always gotta look these things up again. Parse int converts a string to an integer, and looks like you just wrap it. Parse in front of
this, yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, like take the parse int out, and the plus sign will convert whatever's after it to a number.
Shut the front door. So just like right here.
We don't even need the parentheses.
What?
I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah.
Can I console log in here? Hope so. Because that's dope. Equals hero dot ID. So this should be hero ID. Triple equals hero dot ID. So ideally what this filter is going to do is it's going to take that param from the URL, and it's going to filter through the useless superheroes that we have in our array as props, and it's going to return us the one that we want. So let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Computed. Hey, it works. So now we have hero, which is an array of 1. You know, I don't really want an array. I kind of just want the object. So we're going to make it look a little bit nasty. and then we're going to just do at 0. So that way it kind of just, it strips the array off of it, and then we just have an object in the end. So now, computed, here is an object that has all these things. Hooray. So let me see that console log. It did it 14 times. Wow. View. Individual. That's there. And I got 6, 7 times, and we are on individual 6. So as it's looping through, it is doing what it's supposed to. Cool. I never knew about that plus trick. What is that shorthand for? Is there like a specific function that it's shorthand for? Huh. Cool. Learned something new today. Thank you. Great. So now we have our hero, our individual hero that we clicked on. And just to double check to make sure that it works, I'm going to pull up the Vue DevTools again. I'm going to stick around on this. I'm going to go squad. I'm going to click Ryan this time. Make sure that computed is giving us the correct human. ID Ryan. Great. Yeah, it's working. So right. So just to rehash what we just did, right? We passed the props down to this component through the router. So now our individual has the ability to use those props. We pushed the ID of the card that we clicked on to the URL, and we're using that to filter through our array of superheroes to find the right one that we clicked on. And then we're just going to like pop up some of that data right now. So for instance, we do hero.name. And then we should be able to see it right here. Zeke. Caroline. Michael. Do anyone have any questions? Yes.
We were passing the props through the router link.
Mm-hmm.
How many times can you do that, or would you do that on one thing? Can you chain a bunch of data, or is there like a better way?
So ideally, if you had like a larger scale app, like this is kind of a situation, especially if you were to integrate something like auth, where you would want to use a state manager so that you could kind of have that stuff persist throughout. Because it is like a little messy to use the router to pass your props around, but for a simpler application is totally viable. Enterprise level, nah, but like that's okay. Because in fact, like the way that this is working is kind of similar to what you would do with Redux or Vuex. They have a few more steps, but as far as like actually plugging things in and then calling them in specific children, like you do that. There are some different functions that you use for Vuex specifically, but the idea is the same, right? Both Redux and Vuex, you kind of have a wrapper around your whole app that provides state to the whole thing, right? And you have functions to change and to watch and to get and to set inside of that. So from here, you know, like if we had components nested inside of this individual view, like you can pass the props down from here now, and that would be fine. So for instance, if we like imported an individual card and then wanted to bind useless superheroes to that one as well, we could absolutely do that. Or bind like hero to it, that would work well as well. So you can pass them down as far as you want. The caution there is you like being able to follow all the way down where you're passing the props is the annoying part. And the more complicated things get, the more of a hassle that is. So you just have to either plan it or be really meticulous as far as like keeping track of where you're passing them down to and what is nested and what. But yeah, so if this were a large application, I'd be like, yeah, Vuex or Redux, ooh, let's go. Other questions?
So we go from student dot to hero dot. Where does that happen?
Let us see. So in the individual card, we bound our prop as student. So we could fix that. That happens in group.view right here on line 8. We can make that hero if it helps for consistency's sake, which I think it does. We could do hero is hero, and then come into individual card and be like hero. Which, if you don't know Command D is boss. You just highlight the thing and then you Command D and it'll pick that out of everything else and you can change all of them at once. So now, yep, still works. Squad. See, and it has those props. Other questions? No other questions?
Most people are still undefined. Like they might be on the individual card.
So, oops. So when you go here and you click on one of these, this here, right here, is undefined?
Yeah.
Okay. And it is in the computed
It is
section.
included, yeah.
Did you return
Not
the filter? Nope, not individual. Yeah, it is individual.
yeah.
You did?
Yeah, all returns.
Okay. Alright. Return list of using super filter, hero ID. That looks good to me. And that looks good to me too. Is there an error, maybe?
Yeah, heroes.
I see like 36 errors right there. Let's see which one it is. Really quick. Properties of name, fine. And anonymous, name. That's an individual document. Okay, let's go look at it again. So we're looking for so that's that error. So let's delete that really quick. Just so that it stops throwing that. whole
So
hero
go
in
in
there.
here, here,
And we want to just pass the ID.
So, zero, dot,
Yep. There we go. Now we got
What was the
three.
one you just changed?
Yeah, that's normal. Let's check to see if computed is the correct value in your div tools.
Is this capitalized as it is in your path? So I think the path is an individual card.
Hey.
Yeah, that's not capitalized and the other one's capitalized. Is that?
Gucci. Do you want help? You want to start? Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Good?
So,
Yeah.
go back.
It looks like y'all are swarming there.
Warming.
you
Hooray.
have to change something else to get the actual card to show up on the
Any quotes around,
So
here?
on the actual individual, there's a couple of things you could do. Like if you wanted, you could pass the individual card component in there. I'm just gonna style it all on that page and just make it the whole thing. But then you just do this sort of stuff and just like build it all up similar to what we did in the card.
I'm almost about to get a Bernie too.
Oh, no way. Those dogs are sweet. Full size one? I don't know if they make minis because he's kind of like a miniature one.
Right.
They're awesome dogs. I don't know about the Bernie Doodle, but I've met a few and they were sweet and rambunctious.
You know, pretty goofy, but pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Curios.
And they don't shed.
It's true.
I
That's,
love
that was my dad's main selling point.
Yeah. I mean, you can't argue that one. All right, I'm gonna just like make some other stuff in here. You all don't really need to pay attention to this. You can just do it on your own as we go. I'm gonna do an image. Source is hero.faveanimal, I believe. Chickens. Then we're gonna do, what was the other thing? Previous.
Yeah, what's your style? Inside what you see. There's so much margin, bitch.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, and as soon as y'all have kind of this page populated, go ahead and let's take like a, I don't know, like a 5-10 minute break. Sending you back here at 11:10. And I haven't done this yet, but let's see if we can get a map in here to render the actual hometown. Sound good?
Why when we click on the cards,
Yes.
does a little red underline pop up?
Because that's the standard styling of a router link. You gotta do that whole like text decoration, none,
That's,
all that trash. Yeah.
that makes me think that it's spelled incorrectly.
Oh yeah, but that's a squiggly red line.
True.
I was wondering what you could target to do the text declaration on.
So let's see what we can do about that. Individual card. We got div, router, link, text decoration. Is that going to change anything? No, it is not. I don't know, let's Google it. So it is the router link itself that is giving that. So I think that if you target the router link that it should do the thing. Let's see if we can give it a class. Link. Oh, there we go. Classes overwrite element styling, IDs overwrite class styling. Important overwrites all the things.
Oh.
So I gave the router link a class of link. Maybe it could have a better class name. But and then you do just text decoration now.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Null or none?
Oh, I said no, but with a really weird intonation.
Oh, no.
No.
Like some Gary or something.
Yeah. So now we don't have
When I do
that.
text decoration, everything is just gone. All my decoration for the card.
And you did that on the link?
Yep, router link, class link. Didn't spell decoration wrong, did I?
Decoration. No.
This one is.
Oh, Jesus. What?
Jesus.
Oh, look at your div.
Got it.
Look at line 18. Div class.
No?
That's
No?
Delete the dot instead of giving me the class of itself.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Same for image. It should help out.
Why did you get yours to show without having to scroll on your cards on this property?
I do have scroll. And that's just like you can set a min height, or I did like max height because I want them all to be the same size. Or actually, I just set height, right? And you can just make them taller. Or you could set a max height on the image, so that way it'll always keep the image within a certain bound. There's a few ways you could go about it. If Alyssa was here, she could tell you all about the 100 different ways that you could fix that. I really enjoy styling, but I'm just like, I don't know.
That's my Illinois, next to the.
Also, this doesn't look like a break to me.
Oh, I'm stretching.